Back there is where the wires come into the cab through that grommet hole I showed you earlier. And then I ran the LC1 wire right over here to this brace, and then the circuit boss right there behind it. The circuit boss switch 12-volt source wires are right there, and I zip tied along here, and everything terminates right there to this bracket. And then that metal plate will fit over the front, and it'll all be hidden, and the dash goes over the metal plate, but it's still accessible. If I ever have to get in here and do any maintenance or anything, I can always reach it pretty easily. And then this gray wire that's folded up, that is to the Aeroforce interceptor, where it connects to the OBD2 port right here. And then I just ran it back a couple of times because the wire is actually very long. It's probably 8 feet or so. And then I zip tied it on the ends and tucked it away, and then put some corrugated loom on it where it goes up to it in the gauge itself. Over here is the button for the LC1 free air calibration, as well as the red LED, and that's in the driver's side footwell kick panel. And then there's wires behind there that run up, and they go along the back side here and connect over there where I terminated all the other wiring. Ignore that, that's just the what is that? That's the parking brake release. And then back in the back, you can just barely see it, that is the odometer dimmer, and its purple wire goes out, follows up through here, you can barely see it right there on the edge, and then it follows factory wiring. I've got it taped to this, and then it comes up and it connects to that orange with gray stripe wire that is to your factory dash lighting, and it's just a T-tap, and then it plugged in right there. Then I taped it to this, ran it over and taped it to that. And the rest of the black and the white wire from the dimmer run up and over, like I said. And I'll try to get a shot underneath the dash, but I'm going to have to move around to do that. Okay, now this is directly under the dash, looking up at the speaker on the driver's side corner. There's the boost tube, and that runs over and up to the pillar. And then there are the wiring from the gauges, and they run up, and I zip tied it to this bracket that holds this computer in place. There's some kind of computer or something right here. I just zip tied it to the bracket on that, and then they run up through the corner of the between the pillar and the dash. There's a gap about 2 or 3 inches, and they just run up through that to the pod, and that's it. Okay, I'm going to try to show why this odometer dimmer is so important. So that's how it would be set up normally. You can see the gauges, the lights are on, you can see the factory gauges are lit up, and these are lit up. I've got the dimmer set right now so that it matches the factory dash pretty close, but I'm going to turn it up full blast and show you what it would look like without the dimmer. That's how bright it would be, and you can see it's almost like a spotlight. But you can turn it down and get it to match the factory dash pretty close, and then you can use the factory dimmer, and the boost gauge will dim with the factory gauges when they dim. Now the interceptor over here, it's got 3 brightness settings, and right now it's on the second one, which I think is going to be pretty good. It's kind of a medium setting. I think it'll be okay. So now I'm just turning it back, the boost gauge, to make it match the factory dash pretty close. That looks pretty good. Now I'm pretty impressed with the interceptor. Right now I've got it reading analog 1, which is my LC1 wideband. It's out in free air, so it's reading correctly at 22.1. That's about the max. You have to set the interceptor up with values to read the LC1 correctly, and those values are slope of 003.0 and intercept of 7.35. So that's what you'll use, and it'll convert the voltage coming from the LC1 into air-fuel ratio numbers. The high end at 7.35 volts is going to be 20, or at 5 volts rather, is going to be 22, and then the low end I think is something like 8 or 9 AFR, or air-fuel ratio. idling around town, it's going to be 14.7, and then under boost and supercharge and all that going in the motor, it's going to be around 11.5, 11.5. But right now I've got it reading the analog one from the LC1 and then the intake air temperature. But you can just touch these buttons. There's your cat temp. There's the ignition advance. Short-term fuel trims. Long-term fuel trims. That's the command air fuel ratio. Now when I say 14.7, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So the car, when it's idling and when it's in what they call closed loop, which means it's using the O2 sensors to sniff the exhaust gas, and then it's adjusting the air fuel ratio to meet a specified program number. Well, that number's 14.7. So there it is. It shows you what it is. That's reading analog one, and I could touch that one too, and it would change the top. See, I can go through. Shows your horsepower, knock, oil pressure, oil temp. Now there, it can actually read from the map sensor. It can read boost and vacuum. So right now it's running at -21 vacuum. So there's all the settings. I mean, it reads a lot, and you can actually go in here, injector duty cycle. You can set it for what you want it to read. You know, there's parameters, and you select the ones you want it to show, and then you can also set it to scan, so it'll show 2 at a time every 8 or 10 seconds or whatever you program, and it'll just rotate through them, which I thought was pretty nice. All in all, I'm real happy with the unit. It seems like a high quality piece. So there's what the gauges look like in the Razor's Edge pod from the driver's perspective. The pod's pretty nice. Like I said, it's a little bit tough to work with it on the back side, but since it fits the way it does and it looks like a factory part, it's worth it. The angle of the gauges is good, and I'm real happy with the way it turned out. Wiring a car the way I did it is a lot of work. I probably spent, I'm going to guess, about 20 hours total over about 5 days getting all of this done, but I'm really particular about wiring. I want it to all be as if it came from the factory or better. Most people probably wouldn't put that much effort into it, but if you do it the way I did, you'll have wiring that will never give you trouble. Soldering the joints is the right way to go. That ensures, you know, a really good electrical connection. You don't have any problems with flickering gauges or bad grounds or anything like that. Like I said, it is a lot of work, so just make sure you have your patience, and if you have a buddy come help you, it'll get done a lot quicker. If you want some more information on the Challenger and some other modifications that I've made, see some other videos, be sure to check out my website, www.speedysgarage.net.